I'm going to ask another one before we get to that last question. And it's around the concept of a team of rivals. So this book came out a while ago by Doris Kearns Goodwin. And she wrote about how Abraham Lincoln always surrounded himself with a team of rivals to challenge his thinking and make him a better leader. And we'll do Fran Mandela Kelda. But what have you learned from Mandela and Kelda during this campaign that has made you a better leader?
We were in Belmont on Saturday, and there's been a lot of news in the governor's race. Just gonna name that right now. It's been a little bit chaotic, and you get it. And I think Mandela gave his strongest remarks of a forum that I'd heard in a while. Not that you're not strong all the time, but I think
I'm like, wow, okay.
It was very empowering because he was speaking to a community that I think still feels very much like the elections are just being decided for them, and to use the time, that you're supposed to talk about yourself, but to share remarks with a community. Can I just have a little bit more time since we had, thank you. Because I want to make sure I get to Kelda too. But anyway, you see what happens. You saw empowerment happen because people felt like, this guy, he got it. He knows what we're going through, and he's helping us feel more empowered in knowing that this election does belong to us. This election belongs to the voters. It should always be about the voters. Kelda speaks to policy and brings in the context, and I've learned from her how to make sure that we're talking about policy in a way that is clear to folks. She's an expert, she's a lawyer, but she has a way of, she reminds me, I think, and I've learned from her, to make sure to talk about it in a way that can point to a personal story or a real life experience so that it can help me connect the policy to the people even clearer. And I've learned that from, y'all got, a deep bench here, but I will say that it's been, out of all the candidates, these are the two I've learned the most from.
Awesome. Thanks, Fran. That's 2 minutes. All right, great.
All right. So I guess, and none of us are strangers. And seeing the newness in this campaign cycle that Francesca's brought about has been amazing. Like, people I've never seen before. And that's a good thing. If you want to build a real democracy, it is about not just working with the base of folks that you've known forever. Of course, that's the foundation of the work. But this is, we're in the business of addition. And for so long, people haven't wanted to be a part of our politics, mainly because what you see what's going on right now over the last week. But people are fired up. People are ready for change. And I think that it would be unwise if some people seek to dismiss that. With Kelda, I mean, like, the sharpest elbows I've ever experienced. The sharpest elbows, which is a good thing because people think Democrats don't fight. And you show up in a pantsuit throwing a sharp elbows, it is a complete reversal of what people have come to expect from us as a party. And we have to be able to fight. And sometimes that means holding your own accountable. And truly can probably say the same thing about, learning the most or being inspired the most by two people who are on stage today. And that's nothing against anybody else who's running at all. But it is to say that there is something, something real that's happening. You only get that from a primary process. Now, these long primaries, these crowded primaries suck. But they are legitimately good for democracy. I say that in any room. I say that in private. I say that in public. It is good for people to be able to push each other, to challenge each other, to be able to generate ideas from one another, to have a moment to see what works, what doesn't work, but ultimately to give people a choice. And the more that choice gets taken away, the more we do to undo all the good work that has happened throughout this campaign cycle.
Thanks, Mandela. Kelda.
Well, I love this question because it's one we haven't gotten before, but it actually is one that I have thought about as I've gone through this really, really long, hard primary process for the last year. And, I notice the great phrases that I hear from these two and the other candidates popping into my head. And I'm like, nope, you can't say that. That's David's, Then I'm like, but that is a good line. And if I win the general, I'm going to use it. And we hear each other in each other's speeches. And, here, I don't think it's a controversial thing to say that we're the three most progressive candidates, right? We are the progressive candidates in this primary. And so we all have pretty similar policy views and visions and what we want for the state. I mean, I think Fran and I have worked together on more bills than probably any other legislators other than Voss and LeMahieu. But ours are good. Ours are good bills. And, but I also think I'm in a weird spot because I'm 47 and I've got a decade on these guys. And so I've learned a lot from Fran and how she's used social media in really, really novel ways. And I'm more cringe when I do it, but I try to just be authentic and just show up and be like, listen, I am a middle-aged mom. What are you going to do? I am who I am. And that's okay. We're not all going to be cool and we're not all going to be able to pull off that fashion. So you just got to do what you're going to do. And I think that's great to just be comfortable in your own skin as who you are and not try to be something else. Mandela, I think I agree. I actually told you that you did such an amazing job on Saturday and you got me and I was sitting right next to you when you did it. And I was like, damn, he brought it. But I think that so often you're able to really distill down what this is about. And I always think about left and right, because we're in the fray all the time. It is about top and bottom. It is about making sure that every single person has the freedom to thrive. And I think you articulate that beautifully in every forum.